Good morning, good morning. It's the Buenos Diaz Morning Show on 2Box 1011 FM. Luis Diaz with Ronnie G.
What's crack-a-lackin'?
And joined in the 9 o'clock hour by the head of urban planning himself for the Miami DDA, Neal Shafers. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good morning, gentlemen.
Head of urban planning. That sounds like a real important title. And so I don't know how professional I have to be.
It sounds like a title that he's overworked and underpaid.
Bingo.
Yeah, but urban planning also sounds like one of those things that it's like that sounds like a lot, but it also could be like he does nothing, he plays Tetris all day, and
Could be like
it could be. I'm not saying it is.
What type of tree do we want planted on this street as we redo it? Could be like.
Give me 3 weeks. We got to have meetings. I'll figure out what tree in 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna dedicate these 3 weeks to come up with palm.
Yeah. And then he just is like aimlessly walking around downtown taking pictures of trees to see which ones he likes.
Photoshopping. Would an oak look good here? No.
You guys know me pretty well, actually. It's pretty spot on.
So Neal Shafers, you are the head of urban planning. Are you the guy overseeing what's going down here on Flagler, the Flagler beautification project?
I wish I could say I was the guy. That would probably be my boss, Christina Crespi, our executive director. She oversees everything.
Hey.
Got to give the plug. But, yeah, we would do a lot of work with the city, the county, FDOT, all the bigwigs, politicians, everyone. So I'm the man behind the scenes.
I know how bosses are. Ronnie's the boss. I'm the one pushing all the buttons.
There you go.
So I get that.
But I'll also interject, who's the first one here 99 times out of 100?
Is you.
Yeah, because the boss sets the example.
Yeah. So we're going to be talking about the Flagler Street beautification project. It's going to be flipping downtown Miami upside down, completely changing. If you haven't, we say this every time we have someone from the DDA here. If you haven't been in downtown, like a kid from Kendall like me, that just doesn't come to downtown. If you haven't been here in, let's not even go crazy and say 10 years. You haven't been here in a year and a half, 2 years. Things are going down. And Neal, I want to talk to you about that throughout the 9 o'clock hour. Let's talk about Flagler Street, what it used to be, and kind of what we're planning on doing now. We'll talk about that next here on the Buenos Diaz Morning Show. We good with that?
Sounds good.
All right, we'll talk about it next here at 2Box 1011 FM.
Let's go.
Good morning. It's the Buenos Diaz Morning Show, 2Box 1011 FM, joined by Neal Shafers of the Miami DDA, Downtown Development Authority.
I forget what it's called sometimes, too. Don't worry.
No, because I was like, is it Miami's DDA? Is it the Miami DD? Miami down? I just went through myself for a loop.
Yeah.
An unnecessary loop, but a loop nonetheless. Of course, Ronnie G in the building with us.
We saw the cranks, ticking.
You know what's funny? My wife gets scared every time I'm eating a steak and I open my eyes because she thinks I'm joking on it. So you guys saw me open my eyes. We're like, oh, something's happening. So you guys now are joined by my wife and people that I'm disappointing.
Oh, we're in good company.
Head of Urban Planning, Planning, Resilience, Transportation, the Miami Downtown Development Authority. We're here to talk about, though, the Flagler Street beautification project. Can you tell us about how this came to be, like the inception of it? What happened?
Woo, how do we go back? How do we do 125 years of history in like 4 or 5 minutes? So I think a lot of Miamians know the history of Miami, especially how the city became Julia Tuttle, large landowner, wanted to basically incorporate the area that wasn't even known as Miami back then. Tried to convince a railroad pioneer named Henry Flagler to bring his train down from West Palm to Miami. Ironically, how she got him to do it, there was this great freeze in 1894. All the orange and citrus trees throughout Florida froze. They lost their big crop, lost their industry. Well, Miami is the one place that didn't freeze. So
why is that not surprising?
Did not freeze. So Julia had a friend that was also a friend of Henry's. She sent him, I think, a bushel of oranges and some leaves off the trees to show him that it does not freeze. And within 2 years, you had a train down here. And then that same year, 1896, the city incorporates, and that's how Miami starts.
Love that.
So Miami, Flagler Street back then was called 12th Street. It was kind of the main corridor in downtown, an old pioneer kind of outpost town. But, Miami's called the Magic City because the city literally built not literally, but figuratively built overnight. The next 5 years, the city expanded. The next 20 years, you really started to see hotels, banking, nightlife, government, everything kind of happening on Flagler. We're lucky we still have some of those buildings here, the Miami-Dade County Courthouse, the Olympia Theater, the DuPont building. So the structure and the historic bones of Miami starts on Flagler and Miami Ave as kind of the XY axis of downtown.
Yeah.
But, Flagler throughout the 20s, 30s, and 40s, especially post-World War II, this was the heart of Miami where everything happened, Orange Bowl parades, political gatherings, anything, New Year's Eve, you name it, was kind of Flagler.
It was here.
So what happened, in the 60s and 70s is kind of what happened to all downtowns throughout the U.S. You had this suburban flight. All these people are a little bit more prosperous and wealthy. They have the ability to buy their own home, move out to the suburbs, have their own piece of property. So they did that. And what happens when all the people move to the suburbs? Well, the businesses go with them. So whether it's the cafes, the restaurants, the movie theaters, the dining areas, well, that all goes to the suburbs too. So what happened at downtown here in Miami is kind of what happened to a lot of downtowns throughout the U.S., whether you're looking at Manhattan, Chicago, Pittsburgh, wherever. You kind of have a little bit of urban decay, and that happened a lot in the 60s, 70s, and 80s throughout the U.S. As we've seen some other cities have this total urban transformation and renovation, especially in the 90s and 2000s. Again, whether you're talking about Manhattan or Chicago, wherever, it didn't quite happen here. It happened south of the river, Brickell. So all of a sudden, the 2000 Brickell's, pops up. You have all these new residential towers. The new Wall Street of the South starts happening. But the Central Business District was stuck in limbo, and it just did not have a lot of new investment. Mm-hmm. What we've seen in the last 10 years is tons of investment. We can talk about the Brightline Station. We can talk about Miami World Center starting to come online. But Flagler itself just still didn't have that renovation. So if you ask how it happened, where it happened, basically in 2010, 2011, a lot of prominent business owners and stakeholders, guys like Tony Alonso, who owned La Poca, Jose Guyanes, who owned Churchill's Barbershop, Neeson Kasdan, who's a former Miami Beach mayor. They kind of used the Miami DDA and the board of directors as kind of their springboard platform to talk about, hey, we need to reinvest in Flagler. So they started this thing called the Flagler Street Task Force. This is over 10 years ago, where they started talking to city mayors, county mayors, and saying, listen, we need to invest money in this street. We need to do a whole renovation and get ready for what's going to happen in this, vertical development.
I like it.
We're going to start, and, Brickell's Brickell, let it run on its own, but we need the CBD to take off as well. So they were successful. They actually self-assessed them a property tax, both residential and commercial buildings. They raised almost $1 million. They said, we're serious about this. County mayor and city mayor said, okay, yeah, I guess you guys are serious about this. So they were able to lobby them to put in $6 million as well. So all of a sudden you had $13 million. They started designing the corridor to renovate the whole area.
Oh, yeah.
If you've gone north, you've seen maybe Worth Avenue in West Palm Beach, maybe Clematis Street in West Palm, Las Olas in Fort Lauderdale. These are like the main street corridors where people are going for dining, for shopping, for entertainment, and they really wanted to make Flagler that again.
Now, the one in Miracle Mile, the one that, didn't they shut down a part of it so you can't drive through it?
Absolutely.
It is purely
That's
for
that's
foot
Geraldo.
traffic.
That's
Yep.
Geraldo, yeah.
That's what we're doing here?
Yes and no.
Yes and no?
Yeah, yes and no.
But Neal, you're here to talk about the Flagler Beautification Project, which we have a front row view. When you open that window that you're sitting next to, it's closed because the sun is rising, and it's painful for Daniela.
Yeah,
but when you open up that window, you can see it. You got a front row view. You see, and if you're walking down Flagler, they got the fences up, they got the walls. You can't really see over it. However, we got the aerial view. We can actually see what's going on in there. Can you tell us about the plan? Going
Sure.
forward from now, what's going on now? What do we see in the future?
Absolutely. We have a couple towers here and there, but a lot of the buildings are 3, 6 stories. A lot of these buildings are actually zoned. They're allowed to go up to 60, 70 stories. So you could see, what you see in Brickell, you could see it right here. That's not really the goal, but there are some large landowners, Sergio Rock, Moshi Mana. They've talked about renovating or building. I should say going vertical with their buildings. But I think what their idea is to keep that kind of urban historic character.
Yeah.
3 to 6 stories. Renovate them with ground level, retail, restaurants, artists, and creative type labs. Perhaps some office space, some residential, and then really activate the rooftops with outdoor restaurants, bars. Not
That's what's happening.
but a little bit more.
More that new Drake vibe.
There you go.
Not
A little lower,
but
yeah.
It's
like
like yacht music when you're on a yacht. That's what Drake music is all about.
when you're on your
And
yacht,
right now,
Ronnie.
I think that's what downtown. I think that's the vibe that they're cultivating. Like, kind of Brickell has that vibe. You don't see like a lot of loud, obnoxious type of places in the Brickell market. That's what I kind of think that we're gonna see here downtown. Am I correct?
I would hope so. I definitely don't want obnoxious. That's not the goal. But so to get back to the point, like, what are we going to see? But from building facade to building facade, there's only so much right of way. All right, especially in a grown-up, mature city, there's only so much open public space in between.
Yeah.
So the goal was, how do we transform this corridor to make it much more attractive to outdoor dining, restaurants, retail, shopping? Well, the best way to do that usually is have large, attractive sidewalks. So the goal was here, again, there's only so much space. They wanted to keep the vehicular access, so cars can go through the street. And we'll talk about, you're talking about Giralda, and we'll talk about Lincoln Road in a second, how they are different. And then there was, on-street parking, and then there was kind of cramped, tight 10 to 12-foot sidewalks, which aren't the greatest for people, outdoor festivals. You get it.
Not a lot of space.
So the idea was to take that on-street parking and turn it into people space, walking space. So those sidewalks that are kind of old, decayed, and not great, flood a lot, not very walkable, not very attractive, will become actually beautiful 24-foot wide sidewalks.
Look at that.
So there's the first part. You're going to have it a much more open space, a lot more outdoor dining, a lot more shopping. If you walk down Flagler now it's kind of hot and humid, especially in the summer. Not a lot of overhangs, awnings, large shade trees. That's what's going to be coming in. So they're going to basically plant 100 large live oaks. So it'll be much more attractive, much more walkable, much more comfortable. Yeah, excellent. One of the last goals was the ability to close the street for festivals, art events, food and wine festivals, all that kind of stuff. So when we talked a little bit before about great shopping and dining streets, I kind of mentioned Las Olas and Clematis and Miracle Mile, and they do have the mix of vehicular and pedestrian. You're asking if this is going to be like a Giralda or Lincoln Road.
Lincoln Road, yeah.
The answer is no. Here's why. Most buildings in most urban cores, the block has a building on the north side of the block and a building on the south side of the block and an alleyway in between for load-in, servicing, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
We don't have that here. Most of the buildings take up the entire block, so there's no way to service the buildings on an alleyway.
That's great.
So the load in, load out, all the servicing has to happen on the front side or the side of the building. So you really can't do a pedestrian only here. It just wouldn't work.
Well, that's better for traffic.
It is. But the goal is also to give it the flexibility to do that. So originally the idea was to have this kind of ode to Flagler and the railroad. There would be kind of the railroad crossing gates, the arms that would come down, and that would be how you close the street. Found out that that's not exactly the easiest way to permit a street as far as vehicular only with the county and FDOT in the city. So the goal was, okay, if that's not going to work, let's not do that. So what you'll see eventually when the project is over is kind of retractable bollards. Basically, if you've seen Giralda, where it's a flush plaza street, vehicles can go down it if they want to, but then they have bollards that either are retractable or flush, and they come up and vehicles can't go in. So that's kind of what's going to happen here. They're going to raise, if you've seen the first section that's done, Biscayne Boulevard to East 3rd Avenue, the plaza now is a festival street, so the street has been raised, which is great. You're allowed to do a lot more utilities to upgrade for the buildings, new stormwater so it doesn't flood out. The whole thing feels like a kind of a European festival street.
Yeah.
Maybe you've been in the Meatpacking District in New York City where they have the underline and all that. A lot of that is plaza festival level. So the vehicles and the people are all at the same level. The only thing that keeps them delineated is a lot of what we call deterrents. So that could be trees, trash cans, bollards, benches, anything that keeps the vehicles from actually driving onto the sidewalks, kind of trying to avoid.
Yeah.
So you'll have that feel of a continuous plaza.
Oh, that's really cool.
We've been doing lots of events. We've been doing them all along, but we'll start to do more and more, whether they be art shows, classic car shows, fashion shows, food and wine, anything and everything to bring people back down to downtown. Because as you mentioned, if you haven't been here in a while, you don't know that it's kind of a whole new scene.
That's been the thing. As we've been growing this in our audience down here. We hear every single day. I can remember last time I was down here was maybe 2 years ago, and it was crazy. Like, I'm from New York. Nothing scares me. I was a little scared. Like, I would walk through Bed-Stuy. I'd walk through Brownsville. I'd walk through all these neighborhoods in Brooklyn that are world famous for being the toughest, baddest neighborhoods. And then I'd come here, and I was never scared. I'd come here. I was like, whoa, what is going on. And now that entire vibe is gone. What are you going to do? What is the plan, though? Because I understand everything you're saying that you're going to do. How are you now going to fight? Let's talk about this on the next break.
Yeah.
How are you going to fight now to bring the crowds that have escaped to Coral Gables, escaped to the Grove, to Brickell, to Wynwood, to Design District? How are you going to fight? Very much the same problems we have in Miami Beach. How are you going to fight to bring those crowds back when there's so much competition?
One of the main guys overseeing everything going down, the beautification project happening on Flagler Street, and you left us off, Ronnie, with a question.
Yeah.
How are you want? Yeah, you talk.
So I'll give a quick recap. So we've seen all of these other areas. This is part of the reason why Miami Beach actually fell off so hard. You know, in the past 10 years, we saw the Design District, Wynwood. You know, Moshe Minah had success in Wynwood. He's duplicating it here. We saw Coral Gables. Coconut Grove got completely rebuilt. Of course, Brickell. What are you going to do? Now you're kind of like the last one, you know, to kind of try to pop up. What's the plan to try to attract not only businesses but people to come back to downtown?
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely correct. I mean, downtown Miami, and it's funny when we say downtown, we think of it as both CBD and Brickell, but no one else does. They think of downtown as Central Business District, north of the river.
Oh, that's
Brickell,
CBD.
south of the river.
You're saying CBD, I'm thinking about the gummies.
Yeah. Oh, of course. I know. Every time I say it to somebody, they're like, wait, what industry are you in? But no, you know, downtown Miami, north of the river was for sure a 9-to-5 place for quite a long time. As residents started moving into Brickell, that started to change, and now we're seeing more and more residential buildings happen in the Central Business District. So as people start to live here and they start to use the restaurants and the cafes and the bars and all that, that's what you're really going to start to see a lot more life infused.
Well, it's what you said earlier in the 9 o'clock hour. Where people live, that's where the businesses go, and
Absolutely.
so that's probably step one. Get people to live here.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. So where it was a 9-to-5, you know, all the businesses catered to the work crowd, lunch, and then after 5, maybe some dinner, and that was about it. So that's been changing very rapidly. There's been some big, large developments that are changing that, whether it's Miami Central with the Brightline station, Miami World Center is just starting to come online. I mean, that's one of the largest developments in all of the U.S., so when that gets done, it's like Brickell City Center times 2. Nice. No joke. So that's going to change a lot. As far as the downtown core, though, I think you're already starting to see it, but you're going to see it a lot more, I think, in the next year or two. So we talked about Flagler. We got one section done. There's 2 sections already underway in construction. The last one will be right in front of you. So probably within 2 years, this whole entire corridor will be done. You mentioned Moshe Minah. Great segue. He owns quite a few properties. I think he owns 20 different properties right here in downtown. He's already started renovating 3 of them that I know of for sure. One is the Nikola Tesla Innovation Hub, which happens just a few blocks from here. He's got, that's my call, gotta go. But then he's got 2 or 3 buildings that he's either renovating, rehabbing, or demolishing and starting new on Flagler alone. So I think when those buildings come online, and he's not doing just your typical high-rise residential white box tower. He's doing much more creative hub, artists, artisans, manufacturing, all types of design-oriented people. But he really believes in like co-working spaces, nightlife, you know, cafes, bars, restaurants, the buildings that kind of have everything in them. And they draw people to them.
Nice.
The building itself becomes a creative hub. So he's amassed what I would call like a critical mass of infrastructure and buildings. So as those come online 2, 3, and 4 years from now, I think this corridor is going to be completely changed. We've got some big buildings, or I should say new developments that will be opening. You mentioned Julian Henry's, 5 stories of different cocktails, speakeasies. I know they're having an entire recording studio in their basement as well. Maybe your next base of operations, who knows?
That would be cool.
Biscayne Brewing will be opening very shortly. So there's going to be a lot more reasons for people to come here. We already have some kind of pretty cool bars, Lost Boy, Tipsy Flamingo. So you're just starting to see the groundswell, the early days, and then I think
if a business is smart, they get in now before we see the huge price increases, because you know what's going to happen once it's built. They're going to be like, it was $10,000 in rent last month. Yesterday's price is not today's price, to quote my New York brother, Fat Joe.
That's probably pretty accurate.
Yeah, 100%. The other thing that I find interesting is that, this is downtown. And I hate to say it, but like whenever let's go downtown. Downtown always has, no matter what city you're in, we're going downtown. If you make downtown beautiful, people always want, I'm in downtown Miami. I say all the time, people in Minnesota don't say they're coming on vacation to go to Brickell or to go to the design district. Say I'm going. They're either going to South Beach,
Sure,
or they're staying in Miami.
Yep.
Right. So it has that cachet that I think that people can really capitalize on of being downtown. Right.
Yeah, for
downtown.
sure. And I think I agree 1,000%. I think for a long time it was always, when you said Miami, it was the beach.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm taking my talents to South Beach.
We just passed that anniversary. Yeah.
Right. So I mean, that's what everyone was always thinking. I think it's pretty obvious that has completely changed in the last 10 years. Whether it's the design district, it's Wynwood, it's Midtown, even the Groves have its transformation. Brickell, absolutely Brickell in the last 10 years has popped up, and I think within the next 5 to 6 years you'll start to see that really, truly in the central business district.
Yeah. Definitely.
So what's going to happen first? The CBD, the Central Business District, popping off, or the construction on the Palmetto? Finishing. What's going to happen first?
I'm just a gringo from up north. I think 836 will be here forever. I don't think that's going anywhere anytime.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they'll get that new signature bridge done way before 836 ever gets done. So.
I love it. We just want to thank Neal Shafer, head of urban planning from the Miami Downtown Development Authority, for coming in one more time. Thank you so much, Neal.
Thank you for having me, gents. And ladies.
It's Neal, sit, stand, Neal, sit, stand.
I haven't heard those jokes my whole life. No, not at all.
Keeping it real with Neal on 2 Box 1011. Dude,
That was my old radio voice. That's pretty good.
that was
Yeah, I had to bring the bass down, but yeah, that was my old radio voice. Pretty bad.
Very, very commercial like.
Is there anything you want to leave us? Like we touched everything. The conversation literally started with Julia Tuttle and Henry Flagler.
It did.
We've come up to the plans for the future of Flagler Street in downtown Miami. Is there anything you really want us to leave with? Anything you want to reiterate?
I think we should leave with that. I think we'll be hopefully celebrating and toasting at Julie and Henry's pretty soon.
Nice.
Supposed to open in a couple months now. So that's the old La Apoca building. 5 floors of all culinary treats, and like I was saying, speakeasies, rooftop bars, everything. So I think when that one and Biscayne Brewing, which is on the other side of the quarter, when those two come online, we'll have a reason to come on downtown, and you'll see a whole new CBD, as it were.
Well, I want to see it in the beginning of the night, but then forget what it looks like by the end of the night. and Uber home, because responsibility.
Right.
Yeah. Uber home. No. We just sleep on the couches here.
We sleep here. We work here. I gotta be here in an hour anyway.
I
Might
figured
as
you
well.
guys just stumble over to 11 or Space. No, that night you're not.
We stumbled from 11
Oh,
to
there you
here.
go.
That's
There
what
you
it
go.
is. Yeah, because wake
That
up
makes a lot
earlier.
more sense.
Yeah, because if I wake up at 2 in the morning and I'm like, oh, I'm ready to go to work.
Keep
but
it going.
Yeah.
Got a couple hours. Go to 11, then come here. Really warm up. That's it for the morning show. We'll be here tomorrow bright and early. Ronnie, got anything else to say?
Hey, it's Monday and my body knows it. Let's go.
Yeah, but you're saying it for the wrong reason. My body's aching this Monday. All right, it's the Buenos Diaz Morning Show. Stay tuned. DJ Different, a.k.a. Mr. I'm on the List, has your midday happy hour coming up at 10 a.m. Commercial-free 24/7 here on 2 Box 1011 FM. Dad, here's your shout-out. This has been the Buenos Diaz Morning Show.
Let's go.